Ever wondered how some people can talk on the spot on any topic without preparation, without blanking out, and still sound extremely confident and talk in a flow? That unfortunately was not me, and I struggled with impromptu speaking for the longest time. In fact, when I was in college years and years ago, on the first day of my college, I was asked to introduce myself to the rest of the class, and there was a little bit of a complication. I had gotten admission 1 month after college had actually begun, so everyone knew each other already. And a few of us got a little late admission. When I was called on to introduce myself, I remember just sitting at my chair at the back so that nobody could see me. And I was called on, hey, you new guy, come here and introduce yourself. And I just made a face like, he asked me for my kidney. And I remember looking at the class representative and just shaking my head like, not out of arrogance, but out of the fact that I didn't know what to say, even though I had to just introduce myself. And she looked at the guy who called me out and just went, let it be, let him just sit. And that made me realize how difficult it can be to speak when you're put on the spot, even if you have to talk about something as simple as yourself. So today I want to talk about how you can get better at impromptu speaking and what are the 3 main characteristics we have to keep in our mind to avoid such situations. Because it's different if it happens a long time ago in college, and it's different if it happens at your workplace when the consequences actually matter. And if you're here for the first time, my name is Radeep. We create videos on communications, public speaking, Toastmasters, all the time. So subscribe to us if you like such content. Let's get started. When it comes to impromptu speaking, the first 2 characteristics are very simple. It's time and objective. I'll get to the third one in a moment. When it comes to time, we have to ensure we're not rambling and can speak in a concise fashion in almost any situation. You rather talk less instead of talking more, but at the same time, you don't want to speak too little. Second thing is our objective. What is the main point that we're trying to communicate? If I look back at that story I told you earlier, if I had to do that right now, and if I had no training in public speaking, I would simply ask myself, okay, how much time do I have? I can probably get done with this in 30 seconds. I don't need to speak any more than that. Now, what is my main objective when it comes to introducing myself to my classmates? The main thing that they have to know is my name. That's the main objective as an introduction. What is the second most important thing they can know about you? Maybe where I'm from. And what about the third most important thing? Why did I choose this particular degree? Now, if I just talk about these 3 things, keeping the objective in mind, 30 seconds will pass by almost seamlessly. However, that particular introduction won't connect with anybody in the crowd. That is where the third characteristic comes in of impromptu speaking, which is called the story. Storytelling will be one of the most important things we're going to discuss in not just this video, but it's a theme in almost every video that we have. And when I talk about storytelling, I don't mean to get dramatic and get emotional and everything like that. It's a very simple concept that helps you relate with the crowd. So let's go through a very simple example of an impromptu speech. Let's say if you're made to speak on a topic. Let me pick out a random topic over here. So let's say if you're speaking about, is meditation overrated? It's a good topic. Is meditation overrated? If you have to talk on this, how would you use time, objective, and story effectively? Here's where I would like to introduce you to a framework which helps you organize your thoughts so that you can speak in a much more seamless flow. And there are multiple frameworks that you can adapt, but the one that I want to discuss today is called PADS. PADS is not the thing that you're thinking about, but it stands for point, advantage, disadvantage, and summary. These type of topics, which are opinion-based, can really benefit from the PADS framework. It essentially means when you're given a topic like, is meditation overrated? You start with your main point, which is the objective. Over here, we want to simply talk about whether we do or we don't believe in this particular thing. Once we address that, we then get into the meat of our speech. And the best thing about the PADS framework is we don't really have to take any one side. And our point can more or less always be the same, where we support both the points and simply say, when it comes to meditation being overrated, I can look at it from both perspectives. That's it. That's our main point. Now we elaborate on that using the A and D, starting off with the advantage and then the disadvantage. Over here, we can simply say, I think that there is an advantage to meditation because it helps you calm down. There's also a disadvantage to it because it might not work for everybody. We can just say that, but again, there's no form of connection with your listeners. That's where the story comes in. We want to support our advantage and our disadvantage with relevant examples that help to connect with your listeners. And finally, we want to summarize with whatever point we are leaning to more and more. So we don't just put our hands up and say, oh, both are good, both are bad, and we just give our points to that, but we eventually end with giving the audience one clear stance that we might be taking. So in this case, we want to support our advantage with a story and our disadvantage with a story as well. The entire PATS framework on this topic would look something like this. When it comes to meditation being overrated, I think I can look at it from both perspectives. One of my friends, he suffered from OCD. Now, I know what most of you guys are thinking. When I say OCD, it's kind of a funny thing. We might think of somebody who's very, very particular about things and not wanting to move them around. But OCD can become a really serious issue. In fact, it can get so paralyzing, it gets hard to move, it gets hard to make decisions, and you find yourself stuck in an analysis loop. When he discovered meditation, because of his OCD, it felt almost impossible to him. And his therapist advised him to start with just meditating 5 minutes every single day. It's been 3 years since he started. Today, he's been meditating for 45 minutes every single day. And not only has this helped control his OCD, it's helped his attention, his clarity of thought, and his routine all fall into place. On the other hand, if I take myself as an example, meditation didn't really work out for me. I tried it for years at a time. I tried sitting for 10 minutes, I tried guided meditation for 20 minutes, but it never really did a lot for me. And I realized it's because I'm looking at meditation from a very stereotypical perspective. I'm just sitting in a quiet room, closing my eyes, and just breathing, focusing on that in-breath and out-breath. It didn't work for me. But I realized there are other forms of meditation, like music, like sports, like running. And when I followed those, I found myself to be in a much calmer state. So is meditation overrated? The stereotypical image of it, for me, is definitely overrated because it does not work for everybody. And that's about it, the PATS framework. Now, when we keep the time aspect into mind, it depends on what the situation is. If we have a lot of time to communicate, we can expand more on the advantages or disadvantages. And if we don't, then we shorten it up. The best part about frameworks is that they are expandable. Now, earlier in the video, I told you that there are many different types of frameworks for different situations. PATS generally works when you want to be a little more diplomatic, cover a topic from 2 different angles. But there are certain topics that don't really require that. And there are different frameworks which apply to different situations. In fact, we've created an entire video with 5 different mental models that you can apply depending on the situation you're in, which help to adopt the principles of time, objective, and story. You can check out that entire video right here.